So we're coming to an end as we study the book of Romans. This is number 12, the penultimate one, and is entitled Overcoming Evil with Good. And we're going to look at chapters 12 and 13. Too bad we can't do them individually. And of course, let's remember all that's gone before. Paul talking about how we are made right with God, how we are kept right with God, and it's because we trust in Him. It's not because of fulfilling the law's demands or anything like that. It's not works righteousness. But he does want to make it clear that there are consequences to this trusting in God, the way that we live our lives. So verse 1 of chapter 12. So I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, because of God's compassion for you, to dedicate your bodies as a living offering that is holy and pleasing to God. And he says something really interesting. This is the logical way to worship. Oh, that's not always the way we tend to think. We want to talk about our emotions. We want to talk about being enthusiastic in our worship. We want to feel it. No, he says this is the logical way to worship, because you need to worship with your brain. It's not just a question of feeling good. Yes, you may be overwhelmed by the music, you may be inspired by the preacher, but the most important thing is to have a logical worship, to make sure it does make sense. Don't follow the ways of this world. Instead, be transformed by the spiritual renewal of your mind, so you can demonstrate what God's will really is: good, pleasing, and perfect. Renewing our minds, thinking clearly, thinking right, getting rid of all the bad ideas, replacing them with the good ideas that come from God. And he talks about the different parts of the body being complementary. And then verse 9, love must be genuine. Hate what is evil. Hold on tightly to what is good. Be completely dedicated to each other in your love as family. Value others more than yourselves. A lot of good, practical, positive advice here in these chapters. Bless those that persecute you. Share. Give hospitality. Be happy with those who are happy. Cry with those who are crying. Think about one another. Be at peace. Don't look for revenge. Don't be obnoxious and trying to fulfill your own desires. And then verse 13, after having in verse 21 of the previous chapter said, don't be defeated by evil, conquer evil with good. That's where the title for this study comes from. Then he goes on to talk about dealing with different things in our lives, like government authorities. What does that have to do with a Christian? Aren't we living in a different world, a different kingdom, God's kingdom? No, we're still here in this world, and we still have to have some kind of way of dealing with the things around us. What do we do with the authorities? And don't forget, when Paul was writing, not exactly very friendly, Christian-friendly authorities in government at that time. Do as you're told, not just because of the threat of punishment, but because of what your conscience tells you. That's why you have to pay taxes. Oh, painful subject. They're God's servants taking care of things. Pay what you owe. Respect those who should be respected. Honor those who should be honored. Don't owe anybody everything except love for one another. For those who love their neighbor have kept the law, and so on. Some very good, significant things. And then, in case you thought that he was actually getting rid of the law, the 10 commandments and so on, he goes on to say in verse 9, you must not commit adultery. You must not kill. You must not steal. You must not have jealousy. You shouldn't want things for yourself. These and other commandments are summed up in the statement, love your neighbor as yourself. Love doesn't do any wrong to anyone. And here you can hear him thinking of Jesus' statements about how love fulfills the law. You're not doing it because you're obligated, because you want to do it that way. It's time to wake up from your sleep. He comes to this point now saying, you know, you might have been cruising up till now, but now it's time to wake up. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. Salvation is closer than you actually think, certainly than when you first believed. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. So let's get rid of our dark deeds and put on the armor of light. Let's behave properly, showing that we're people who are living in the light. We shouldn't spend our time going to wild parties and getting drunk, or having affairs and acting immorally, or getting into fights and being jealous. I mean, good specific points here. Instead, put on the Lord Jesus Christ and forget about following your sinful desires. A wonderful summary of the way we will live because we trust in God. May God bless you as you think of these things.